If you think Mercedes-AMG Petronas Formula One team already has 2026 locked, think again, because something dangerous is happening inside Scuderia Ferrari, and it starts with Lewis Hamilton. After a broken 2025, he's suddenly faster, sharper, and more precise. And now Ferrari has the one thing they've been missing for years: control. Suzuka isn't just another race, it's where momentum could flip. If Ferrari gets this right, Mercedes won't just be challenged, they could be exposed. Like, share, and subscribe, because this changes everything. On paper, Mercedes-AMG Petronas Formula One team looks completely untouchable. 2 races, 2 dominant performances, back-to-back 1-2 finishes. It's the kind of start that usually signals total season control. No visible weaknesses, no strategic errors, no pressure situations. Just clean, clinical execution. But that surface-level dominance is hiding a far more dangerous reality developing underneath. Because when you break the races down corner by corner, stint by stint, Scuderia Ferrari is already matching Mercedes in very specific phases of the race weekend. Not across the board yet, but enough to expose cracks in what looks like perfection. The gap sits at around 4/10 in race trim, which sounds comfortable. It isn't. In modern Formula One, that margin is fragile. One upgrade, one safety car, one strategic shift, and it disappears instantly. And here's where the real threat begins. Ferrari is no longer experimenting or reacting blindly. Every improvement they bring is targeted, calculated, and repeatable. This isn't the inconsistent Ferrari of the past. This is a team applying pressure with precision, building momentum step by step. And Suzuka, a circuit that punishes even the smallest instability, has a history of turning pressure into mistakes. Exactly where dominance begins to crack. There's one area where Scuderia Ferrari isn't just competing with Mercedes-AMG Petronas Formula One team, they're consistently beating them, and it's happening at the most critical moment of the race: the start. Across Australia, the China Sprint, and the Grand Prix, Ferrari has repeatedly launched off the line with superior traction and acceleration, gaining immediate track position before the race has even settled. And in modern Formula One, that advantage is everything. Because track position doesn't just determine where you are, it determines what you can do. Leading into turn 1 means clean air, better tyre management, and full control over race strategy. And the reason behind this advantage appears deeply technical. Ferrari's power unit is delivering power more instantly, likely due to reduced turbo lag and a more responsive energy deployment system at low speeds. That translates into sharper launches and faster initial acceleration, small gains that compound massively over a full race distance. Even George Russell has questioned whether these starts are entirely fair, raising concerns about battery deployment consistency. Ferrari's response was direct and confident. They've simply executed better within the rules. And that response matters. Because for the first time in years, Ferrari isn't reacting to the grid. They're forcing the grid to react to them. This isn't just about the car anymore, it's about Lewis Hamilton and the transformation he's gone through behind the scenes. After what many described as the most difficult season of his career, Hamilton didn't simply come back hoping for better results, he rebuilt himself from the ground up. Following the Abu Dhabi finale, he completely disconnected from the sport, stepping away mentally before committing to one of the most intense training programs of his entire career, starting as early as Christmas Day. This wasn't a minor reset, it was a full recalibration of mindset, preparation, and execution. Now the difference is visible in every lap. Hamilton is no longer reacting to the car's limitations, he's dictating how it behaves. The instability that once cost him time through medium and high-speed corners has disappeared, replaced by smooth, controlled inputs and consistent traction on corner exits. His laps look cleaner, more efficient, and far more predictable. This is classic Hamilton at his peak, prioritizing precision over unnecessary aggression, maximizing every phase of the lap without overdriving. And the most dangerous part? He's openly said there's still more performance to unlock. That means Ferrari isn't even seeing his full potential yet, and if that ceiling rises further, the entire competitive balance could shift. The most overlooked factor in Hamilton's resurgence isn't just his preparation, it's the regulations themselves. The 2026 Formula One cars represent a fundamental shift in philosophy: lighter chassis, narrower dimensions, and a more balanced hybrid power system that places equal importance on electrical and combustion energy. And that combination aligns almost perfectly with how Lewis Hamilton naturally drives. In the previous ground effect era, Hamilton never fully connected with the car. The unpredictable balance and narrow operating window constantly worked against his instinctive feel, forcing him into uncomfortable compromises. But now, everything has changed. The new generation of cars responds earlier, behaves more progressively, and allows drivers to anticipate rather than react. That's exactly where Hamilton thrives. Analysts like James Hinchcliffe have pointed this out directly, suggesting that Hamilton's return to form isn't coincidental, but structural. The sport itself has shifted back into a space where his strengths matter most. He can now read the car sooner, predict its weight transfer, and operate within tighter performance margins without losing control. And that's when Hamilton becomes truly dangerous, because when he reaches full confidence, it's not just about speed anymore, it's about relentless consistency, the kind that breaks opponents over an entire race distance. Because instead of relying on a single reference point, the team is extracting performance from two equally competitive perspectives at the same time. That creates internal pressure, but the kind Ferrari actually needs. Both drivers are pushing the limits of the car, exploring different approaches, feeding more data into the system, and accelerating development at a much faster rate. There's no comfort zone anymore. Every session becomes a benchmark battle, and that intensity translates directly into performance gains. More importantly, Hamilton's influence is now embedded into the car's evolution. Unlike before, where he had to adapt to an existing package, Ferrari is now adapting to him as well. That alignment between driver feel and engineering direction is one of the most underrated advantages in Formula One. When a car evolves around a driver's instincts, performance becomes more accessible, more consistent, and easier to unlock under pressure. Ferrari isn't just improving, they're synchronizing, and that's what turns potential into results. Ferrari isn't approaching Suzuka passively, they're arriving with intent, backed by targeted upgrades that could shift the competitive balance. The first is the Halo winglet, now officially approved by the FIA, adding a small but meaningful aerodynamic gain. On its own, it's measured in hundredths of a second, but in a field where margins are razor thin, even that level of improvement carries weight. This isn't a conventional upgrade, it's an innovative aerodynamic solution designed to adjust dynamically under load, optimizing airflow and reducing drag on straights. If it performs as expected, the gain could be measured in tenths, not just fractions. That's the kind of leap that directly impacts overtaking ability and defensive positioning. However, there's a critical risk. The system isn't fully proven yet. Limited testing mileage and reliability concerns mean Ferrari is standing at a strategic crossroads. Deploy it early, and they could unlock a major advantage at Suzuka. Hold it back, and they risk falling short at a moment where momentum is everything. This decision isn't just technical, it's psychological, and it could define their entire race weekend. Let's be clear, Scuderia Ferrari is still behind. Even Lewis Hamilton has acknowledged it openly. The gap to Mercedes-AMG Petronas Formula One team in race trim sits somewhere around 4 to 5 tenths of a second. And in Formula One terms, that's not a minor deficit. That's the difference between controlling the pace from the front and being forced into reactive strategies from behind. It's the gap between dictating the race and chasing it. But here's where the situation becomes far more complex and far more dangerous for Mercedes. That gap isn't consistent across all conditions. In qualifying, Ferrari is already much closer, occasionally operating within striking distance. At race starts, they're clearly superior. Gaining positions before turn 1 even settles the field. And in specific phases of a stint, particularly when tyre management and clean air come into play, Ferrari can match Mercedes almost exactly. So the real question isn't whether Ferrari is outright faster. It's whether they can synchronize all these strengths into one complete performance. Because if they manage to align qualifying pace, race starts, tyre management, and strategy execution in a single race weekend, that half-second deficit doesn't just shrink, it disappears. And when that happens, the balance of power shifts instantly. The Japanese Grand Prix at Suzuka isn't just another stop on the calendar, it's one of the most demanding and revealing circuits in all of Formula One. Drivers need to trust the car completely through corners like the S's, where commitment and balance are everything. And right now, Lewis Hamilton has exactly that. His current form, calm, controlled, and highly precise, fits perfectly with what Suzuka demands. At the same time, Ferrari's recent improvements in stability and predictability align directly with the circuit's characteristics. That combination is what makes this race so important. If Hamilton can translate his current form into a strong performance at Suzuka, it won't just be another good result, it will send a message across the grid. Because winning or even seriously challenging here doesn't happen by luck. It happens when driver, car, and confidence are fully aligned. And if Ferrari achieves that alignment now, it signals something much bigger than a single race. It signals a shift. For the first time this season, Mercedes-AMG Petronas Formula One team isn't just executing, they're reacting. And that subtle shift changes the entire competitive dynamic. The early races showed dominance, but now there are signs of discomfort beginning to surface. Questions are being raised internally and externally, particularly around Scuderia Ferrari's superior race starts and how they're consistently gaining track position off the line. Even discussions around regulatory clarity and energy deployment are starting to appear, and that's usually the first signal that a dominant team is feeling pressure. Because true dominance isn't just about being fast, it's about being in control, and Ferrari is starting to disrupt that control. They're introducing variables Mercedes didn't have to deal with before, unpredictable starts, evolving upgrades, and a driver in Lewis Hamilton who is regaining peak form. That uncertainty forces reactions, it forces adjustments, and most importantly, it forces hesitation. And in Formula One, hesitation is where cracks begin, not always in raw performance, but in execution. Strategy calls become more conservative, risk tolerance drops, and small errors start creeping in. Mercedes may still have the fastest overall package, but for the first time they're no longer operating in complete comfort. And once that psychological edge starts to fade, the advantage becomes far more fragile than it appears. This isn't just about one race at Suzuka, this is about momentum, and momentum in Formula One is everything. Scuderia Ferrari is arriving at a critical point in the season, with multiple factors aligning at once. They have a resurgent Lewis Hamilton who is no longer rebuilding, but actively extracting performance at a high level. They have a clear and focused technical direction, with upgrades like the Halo winglet already implemented and more aggressive concepts on the horizon. And perhaps most importantly, they have something that has been missing for years: confidence. On the other side, Mercedes-AMG Petronas Formula One team still holds the raw advantage. The pace is there, the results prove it. But what they're starting to lose is control over the narrative of the season. And that's where things become dangerous. Because once a dominant team shifts from leading to defending, everything changes. Strategy, mindset, and risk approach. In Formula One, control is the foundation of dominance. And when that control starts slipping, even slightly, it opens the door for a complete shift in power. So the real question isn't whether Ferrari can win at Suzuka, it's whether this is the moment Mercedes stops dictating the season and starts fighting to protect it.